Hello and good evening. This is Coffee with Coco, and I am Reverend Coco. And I want to tell you that we have to be intentional with the way that we raise our boys. We have to be so intentional. Because when men do not know how to be men, women and children suffer. When men do not know how to be men, they are monsters. So we have to be really, really, really intentional about teaching our men, teaching our young boys so that they grow up to be honorable men, how to be honorable, how to have integrity, how to apologize, to teach them about humility, to teach them how to use their strength to be of help to themselves and other people, not just to act their anger out on people who may or may not be able to rise to the challenge. We have to be so intentional. I was thinking earlier about a conversation that I had, and to change names and, and identities and all that, I will share with you a story about a gentleman from college, and we will call him Rerun because that's what's happening now. Rerun was is still a strong, beautiful black man, physically just beautiful, athletic, very, very charming, great smile, great vocabulary, seems very thoughtful, very much a hopeless romantic, which I think is very appealing to many different women. Well, at one time, Rerun was dating a non-black woman, and this sent a lot of the pro-black women that he was friends with in an uproar, because for them, it was like, we love you so much. We honor you as a black man. We understand your sadnesses when it comes to living as a strong black man in America, and we have been your support. And then you would choose someone who really doesn't know your struggle or doesn't understand it. She's just fascinated with the look of you, is what many of us were thinking and angry about. Nonetheless, we stayed friends with Rerun. And after a while, Rerun began to complain about his girlfriend a lot. I mean, a lot. I mean, every time you turned around, it was like Rerun was angry with her and making so many claims that she was selfish and everything was about her, and he's breaking his back to make her happy, and his grades are suffering because of her, and his job was suffering because of her, and his money and his finances were all going to her, and she was just draining him. And we were all telling Rerun, well, we could have told you that, we already told you. This girl does not know your struggle the way that we do and cannot support you. And now she's making it worse. So we were automatically all on Rerun's side. After listening to Rerun so many times, some of the girls went to Rerun's girlfriend and accosted her and said, "What's going on? Why are you doing this to Rerun?" No questions, just coming off of the basis of the stories that they heard Rerun share. Well, she broke down. She started crying. From what I understand, I was not there. And she shared how mean Rerun is, how he has called her out of her name, how he has raised his hand as though he was going to hit her just so that she would be afraid of him. She talked about how she had missed class because one day Rerun got very angry and threw all of her clothes out of her dormitory, and that she was just so afraid that she actually went back home, out of state, back to her parents for some R&R. I mean, she just shared story after story after story. By the time these young Black college students, who are Rerun's friends, heard about her plight, they were in tears along with her. When they approached Rerun about it, they didn't act as though she had told them directly, but they're asking questions because now they're just trying to get to the truth. When Rerun started answering their questions, what I understand Rerun started to do is he started to retract some of those statements. And then he would go into extremes like, well, you know, no one's perfect. Yeah, that's very true. No one is perfect. And did you throw her clothes out of her dormitory? I always like to be really, really careful when people make extreme statements. Number one, so often I think people do that because their back is against the wall. I think it's something that's been normalized. I think that's something that people, including myself, have said in the past. Nobody's perfect. Well, of course not. We're not talking about perfection. We're talking about behavior that needs to change, right? So that's similar to what he was doing. He was making a lot of extreme statements, and he wasn't taking accountability, to make a long story short. And by the time they walked away from Rerun, they had realized that Rerun had retold those stories to present him in a light that made it look as though he is a victim when he was also doing some victimizing. When I say this, I'm not saying that she never did anything wrong. But there are also things that I don't believe can be justified. So him, as my friends told me, putting up his hand to instill fear in her, there's just no justification for that. That's not a nobody's perfect statement. That's a no, period. So, his retelling didn't show in some of those ways how her actions may have been provoked. And that does not justify whatever she had did, that Rerun had shared that was so hurtful and so harmful. But there were two sides, and Rerun was only sharing a side of the story that did not include any of his mistakes, and therefore he didn't have to take accountability. Those young Black women, though, however, held him accountable. And because he was held accountable by them, he felt as though they had turned against him. So he is not friends with them anymore. Now, I am still in contact with Rerun because I pray for him. I don't mince words with him either. I will tell him, because he has dated very many women now that I've known of, and the story still ends the same. They end up being afraid of him. They end up being angry with him. They feel taken advantage by him. And one of the things that Rerun and I have talked about is having reasonable expectations for his partner not to do the finishing work of his mother. He expects these women to serve him in a way that is not only unnatural and could be labeled dehumanizing, but it is heartbreaking, to say the least. It is heartbreaking. I have said it a million times, and some people may find this harsh, but I will say, if I am in a relationship, I am not his life coach. I am not his counselor. I am not his accountant. I'm not his nutritionist. I do not work for him. I am here to work with him as his partner. I am his number one cheerleader, and I don't mind burning the midnight oil so that he can get ahead, so that he can pursue his dreams. But they must be his pursuit. They must be his pursuit. This is how, even with great guys like Rerun, who are smart, who are strong, who are resilient, we end up losing respect for them. We end up losing respect because we are doing all the work as women, and we are not seeing a leader in that man. And so you're wondering, what do I really need this man for? So when you stop seeing your partner as valuable, I think that's the beginning of the end. And I think hatred shows up before the end, or disgust, whatever you want to call it. It's very unpleasant. So, again, we need to raise our men. We need to raise our boys to be men with intentionality. How to love, how to humble yourself and say, I'm sorry, I messed up. Fix it and move on. How to use their strength to protect themselves and their families. How to advocate, how to use effective communication. Self-control. Self-control. Great men have self-control. Great men have integrity. You know, we need to teach our boys how to be men. Otherwise, they will simply be monsters. I know too many examples like Rerun. Wasted potential. Wasted potential. And they don't have to continue wasting it, but so often nobody is willing to hold them accountable. And to those great, strong, courageous people who do hold them accountable, that person no longer wants to be around them. And they find someone new to retell their victim story to. And so we need to empower our boys to take accountability. We need to empower them to understand their power and how to use it in a righteous way. Because if we don't make men, we'll have monsters. This is Coffee with Coco, and this is Reverend Coco saying peace.